This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's #1 online art school. Check the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for animation.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we're going to do something that I've wanted to do for a very, very, very long time, which is talk about our conventioning experience.
Yeah.
So how long have you and I been conventioning?
For about 6 years now.
6 years now. And our very, very first convention was CTN 2014.
Yes. And we're going to go into the horror story that is our first CTN and our first convention tabling experience ever. But first, make sure to smash the like button.
Over there, right there.
If you're listening on YouTube and you have not done it yet, smash the like button. Okay.
All right. So, Creative Talent Network 2014. Now, what is the Creative Talent Network, Janet?
Well, let me read this email that I actually have from all the way from 2014 that I got from CTN, where they explain it themselves what they are.
What does it say?
Well, in this paragraph, it says, unlike a con, in quotations, CTN is not a consumer event, but instead builds loyalty and community by providing opportunities and services to support and feature and promote what you do. I discovered this as we were reminiscing about our first convention to really figure out the details of what we wanted to share. And I laughed, and I didn't laugh the first time I read that because I was totally drinking the Kool-Aid. But now that I have a lot more experience and we've been to CTN quite a few times, let me translate what that means to you. What that actually means.
Yeah, for students, maybe.
As a student, what I thought it meant is exactly what it says. That like, oh, this isn't a typical con. We're special. We provide you an opportunity to get hired. We care about you. What it actually means is, listen, we're not a normal convention, so you're probably not going to make money because people don't come here to buy things. But we might give you an opportunity to get hired. Like a infinitesimal opportunity, like very small, like maybe. That's what it means. I was so like, man, I wish I knew what this actually meant way back then, so I could adjust what I thought it would be able to provide to me. But Vincent, what is CTN?
What is CTN? Well, I talked about in this podcast how I took a break right before I graduated. I took like a term off. They say it's like about 4 months. And in that 4 months, I had this small little freelance internship thing with the studio. And I thought so I was trying my best to do research and trying my best to find studios to I could get work for, or at least get some work experience. So I found the studio, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we want to meet with you. I'm like, oh, wow, my very first interview is going to be crazy with a studio I've never, heard of before, but, it's going to be fun. I roll up, and it's a completely different studio. It's it's a studio where they make probably, you would say, the most popular, longest running TV show on a certain network television station. But I rolled up, immediately felt a little catfish, like, what is going on? But I got this freelance work, and they took me to to CTN for the first time, and that was 2013, the year before we went. And it was my very first time, and it was the craziest thing, just seeing all of the people, like, you and I, what they do in schools like ours is they, have you study, artists in animation, right? So we'd get these production design sketches and notes, and we just marvel at these amazing drawings. And then I would think, like, holy smokes, I've been drawing, like, I've been studying this dude's stuff for years, and there they are, they're right there. And it was my very first time feeling like a little starstruck, and it's really intense. And like, I think anybody who's been into a conference or something like CTN, like they'll say it is a really, really intense, overwhelming experience because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's really small. So it really feels like you're bumping elbows with people. So I went to CTN for the first time, and then they tell me, these people, like this freelance I was working for, they tell me, no one here is actually hiring. No one here is actually hiring, and it's basically like American Idol. Those were the words. Wow. It's basically like American Idol. It's like that's how they saw it. And these are like this is my first contact with industry people.
Yeah.
And then that's when I, for the first time had this taste of like, this bitter Hollywood thing, bitter Hollywood person,
trying to signal it's not what it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody has a bit of that, but they don't quite go as far as, I don't know, say you. But right then and there, when he said that stuff, it stuck with me. But at the same time, I knew it was all fake. It was like the WWE. Okay, fine. Let's fake. So everyone's like here, and they're all, looking at people's portfolios, giving the small semblance of hope, maybe that they'll hire them. Sure, fine. I'll give it that. But it's pretty cool how, like, you're with all your classmates, and you're with all the people that you admire, and all the people you really paid so much attention to at school. So I was like, okay, so it's half fake and it's half I actually want to participate. I actually do.
Like, you want to be in the crowd kind of.
Yeah. Like, I want to fit in. Like, I want to, like, I don't know, that's just like my first instinct. I'm like, oh, I want to, like, schmooze my way into this in crowd of cool kids, I guess. But then as time went on, and this isn't this first CTN is 1 out of 4. Yeah. And it doesn't have a happy ending, this episode. So, just full disclosure now. But, I was ready to table at CTN, knowing that we probably wouldn't make any money, but delusional enough to think that there's something special about
yeah, because like
us.
All these, I guess, for lack of a better word, like celebrity artists are like famous in the industry, because we're not famous. Like animation artists not famous outside of anything other than the animation industry. I remember like just casually wondering if like my friend outside of art would know these names. So I just was like, hey, do you know, like, insert like really, really big artist name? And then they're like, who? Never heard about this person in my life. I'm like, interesting. Okay. Like, all these artists are famous in your eyes when you're like just a student and you want to get hired really badly. So like there's a little bit of delusion in there. Understandable. I was very delusional. Well, I also think I was sold the complete wrong idea, because at least that person who took you to CTN told you the truth.
It's the truth.
And wanting you to believe it, but you like half didn't believe
it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe that's true, but the other half is kind of true. These people are getting like, all this attention, and I want some of that too. That kind of shit.
Because you are seeing, like, what you are seeing is that they are getting attention. So you kind of, like, don't buy what he's saying completely.
Right.
For me, I learned about, so first, CTN is the Creative Talent Network. It's a animation industry conference is what I would call it. But when you go, what it actually is, it's like half a conference, like a industry conference, where you just talk about your industry. And the other half is like a con in that you can purchase things like an artist alley or a trade show booth kind of thing. So that's CTN, and then but what they advertise it as you heard from the email is that it's more of a conference than a con. So they they offer things to you, and what they're trying to offer is some idea of like you might might make connections here. You have an opportunity to meet face to face with like these studios and possibly get hired or whatever. It's like for everyone who wants to get into animation, who idolizes animation, who has all these big dreams, come here, we'll give you your dreams. Basically, that's what that is advertised as. And
what was it at the time? I don't even remember. What was the price of the table?
So I actually also have the price that we paid exactly.
Oh, dang, okay.
Yeah. So the total amount that we paid for a table, this is a 6-foot table, and this technically at the time was called a new talent table. So it was cheaper. You get a discount on it because you're not part of the main event. You're in a tent outside in the parking lot. And we paid...
And I know that's the main, like, if you were at CTN for the past 5 years, you would assume that, what are you talking about, the big main tent? No, the event used to be actually in the Marriott.
Yeah.
Used to, if you know what we're talking about, the Marriott in Burbank, by the Burbank airport, it's a hotel, and it used to be in this, like, banquet hall, like the conference area. And then I guess it became a fire hazard or something like that, which is hilarious because then it was in this big old tent where like one year a speaker burnt up or something.
Yeah.
So it's at this time it was separated from like new talent or outside in the tent, and it was a lot smaller, not like half the size of the tent.
Oh yeah,
that
it was like one parking lot aisle.
Yeah,
kind of, or two.
Right. And there wasn't a lot of people visiting that area.
Yeah, because it was outside.
Yeah.
With the elements, the California elements in mid-November, which if you're familiar with California, that means it's like 100 degrees outside. But yeah, so we paid for a new talent table. It's outside in the parking lot, away from the actual event, making it, if you've ever been to any convention, like, do you go outside of the main Comic-Con hall to go to like hall, I don't know, B all the way across the street? Most likely not. It just makes it that less attractive to be in. But we paid for that because we were quote unquote new talent trying to get into the industry, possibly graduating from college or whatever. And we paid $433.75
for a 6-foot table.
Yes.
That's like a Comic-Con, not a Comic-Con, sorry, like like a WonderCon Artist Alley table or an Artist Alley table at Anime Expo.
Yeah.
It's not very big.
Yeah, it's a standard Artist Alley table, which if you guys have ever been to a convention, craft fair, whatever, those things, especially like let's say WonderCon, it's a pretty well established con run by the people of Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and so you'd think that would be pretty expensive, right? Well, actually, the Artist Alley table, like for the same size that you would get at CTN, is like $250. Half
that.
What we paid, and I got a discount.
And you have a great chance of making your money back at those conventions, probably at your second day, maybe, out of the 3.
Yeah, because there's so, like, think about the amount of people that go to these cons compared to like an industry conference. Like how, even if there are a lot of people who want to get into the industry, it's still a really small con compared to like WonderCon.
And for a convention that small, getting your money back for $400 through sales is that's pretty hard.
Yeah,
pretty steep.
So that's what CTN is, and that's what we paid for, in order to table there for the first time. But how I found out about it was through school, actually, because at the time Art Center, I think I don't know if they were in cahoots with or like trying to help promote it, but they got like really cheap tickets or something, and they were selling it to the students at a discount. It's like, oh, because you're buying the tickets from us, you get it for like student discount kind of thing to go to CTN. And also, they had something like a booth or a table there where they would hand select their favorite students to represent the school. So they got an opportunity to completely for free have a booth there, and they were advertised as like the school's picks, so people were particularly interested in them. So they were able to make, at least in my eyes, I have no idea if they actually made any good connections, but it seemed like they were like hand selected by the school to like offer up to these studios.
So you were just like, the school, you saw what was happening with the students and you were like, oh, I want that. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm still kind of a little bit of like an A student. Like I want to be the best. I want to be like teacher's pet. I want to be excellent. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, if they're hand selecting these students, then I have to be good enough to be hand selected to go to CTN and whatever.
Meanwhile, I'm like being told that no one's hiring when they're at CTN.
Yeah, you got a more realistic picture. But and then the more I found out about it, I was told like, oh, like really big industry people are gonna be there, and I was like, oh, like who? And then like people would be like, oh, these people. I'm like, oh, cool. So I was sold like, when you go there, you have this opportunity to get hired. It's like a great big place full of all these connections and all these people and all. It seemed like the place to be. It seemed like I don't know. It seemed like I had to be there. Like if you wanted to work in animation, you had to be there. And that's kind of what I saw, like kind of delusional, kind of like, man, everyone's talking such great things about this con.
Yeah,
I should go.
I mean, we're 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah, at that point, something like that.
I mean, I don't blame kids for like, oh my gosh, these students from my school are getting selected and they're getting all this attention from these studios. I want that.
Yeah.
What do I got to do? Oh, I got to pay $400 for a ticket.
Yeah.
Fuck?
Yeah.
What?
But yeah, so I went, I went that year. It was the year before we tabled there. And I basically just walked around and bought so-called famous people some art books and walked around for an hour and left. And I was kind of like, seems like if I want to get hired, I need to be there. So then the next year, we decided to table there together. Also, I thought that like, oh, I have to be there. So I looked at the price and it ended up being like $500. And then I was like kind of iffy about it, but then you keep hearing people say things like it's okay, it's an investment on your future.
Oh man, I remember this talk. Now that you're talking about it, I remember our teachers going, I know CTN is it's hard to get into. It's a high price tag, so you gotta save money from like Christmas and all this stuff, and you gotta, or maybe do some freelance and stuff, so you could get into CTN. And in retrospect, it's like, man, it's not that important to go to CTN.
No.
not for like, especially to table, they're not $400 worth.
Yeah,
not $400 important.
There are a lot of people who set up our expectations that like, we have to be there. It's expensive, but it's worth the money. And, you're there for the connections, not to make money. Not to make your money back by selling prints or books or whatever. So people go in thinking...
That's so demoralizing, especially if you like to sell art, But, I feel like a lot of people who go to CTN, they're not the type to do conventioning.
Yeah.
Usually, these are the type of people who really want to do animation.
Yeah. Since we both have gone to CTN before, my idea of what I needed to have at our table was basically portfolios, our portfolios so we can get hired, prints because everyone else had prints, and some kind of art book because everyone else had some kind of art book. So we already had our like portfolios that like you had graduated. I was in the like last few semesters of graduating. So we printed our homework from school and tried to sell that. And since everyone else had art books, we're like, well, we don't have money to make an art book, nor do we have the first idea where to get it printed and made. So we were like, we can make zines. We can print it. We have a printer. We can print it out ourselves. We've made art prints before in school, and we've made like books before, like handmade books. So let's make a zine.
How hard could it be?
Yeah. So, very like bare bones table, and our zine were made out of like my sketches, like sketchbook drawings, and you actually made one that sold.
Oh, my first zines? My first zines I made from my sketches. My first time participating in Inktober, I did a ton of horror movie ink drawings. I called it 31 Days of Ink Horror. And I printed it all out in copy paper, and I stapled it all together and made it the night before, and I made like 12 copies. It was pretty dope.
Yeah. And you'd think like 10 or 12 zines is like no big deal to make. It took all night because we had printer problems, and I think we didn't even have like the right stapler or something.
Yeah, you need a special stapler to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
A book.
Yeah.
A paper sandwich book.
And actually, you had art prints, like actual art prints, not like printouts of your homework, but you didn't sell them because you had tabled at Anime Expo before, like that summer, right? And you had like anime fan art, but I don't remember you selling it.
No, I didn't sell it because I thought, oh, these are industry people, so I can't sell my anime art. These industry people hate anime art.
Yeah, you're like, fan art isn't allowed.
Yeah. Whereas we soon learned, like around year 3 or 4, that actually if you sell fan art at these conventions, especially if you're the type to mix that, manga style with the animation look, it does really well.
Oh yeah.
It does really, really well.
Lots of money.
But if you're the type like, oh, harumph, I'm not gonna sell fan art, probably gonna eat shit.
Yeah, it's really hard to sell original work
at that convention.
Yeah. So if you are looking to be an entrepreneur or to quit the 9 to 5, I have a book recommendation for you. I highly recommend The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Wow.
And instead of reading the book, you can listen to the book because we do not have time to read anymore by going to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast. And you will get 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible original audiobooks. So if you would like to listen to the 4-Hour Workweek, that's a good free download for you. So head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast. Something you don't think about the first time you ever do a convention is like all the small little things you don't know how to do for the first time ever. So we knew how to print prints because we were trained how to do it in school properly, like fine art prints. We had no idea where to get zines made, and we had no idea how to make an art book, and we had no idea how to like if we wanted to get a lot of prints made, because we kind of did. We were like, maybe I don't have any expectation with how many prints people are going to buy. Maybe like 25. Oh God, don't print 25 prints of your homework. No. We were such idiots. But so we were like, we need to find how to make all of this. How to, even things like display. Like, you don't realize you have no idea where to get like easels at all to like display your art upright instead of flat on the table. Like small stupid things like that you don't even realize, like, wow, I don't even know how to do that until it presents itself. So we started making connections, and that was actually one of the most important lessons I learned from that con, even though it was you will later find out, kind of a miserable experience. Every single convention, no matter how much we've failed, we've learned something so important. And that was developing this connection with this printer. He now is like a really, really big printer here in Southern California. He's more in like the Orange County area. Like, he's like the main printer for like a school down there, I think, and some other people. And his family business was trying to expand because they were doing fine art prints, but they couldn't find a market and they didn't have any way in. And then I met up with him, and he had no idea about what CTN was, and we made this connection. He made these giant canvas displays, I guess, for us. And even though, like, you guys, our display looked like a hot mess, but like making that connection was really important. Learning how to make that connection, finding him, and then building a relationship with him. And then he helped us completely for free print out our banner and some
of our prints on canvas, which was really nice. The quality was really, really good. So that was one of the better parts of that whole experience.
Yeah. In exchange, I think we gave him like one of our free tickets that you get a certain amount of people to help come in and help you set up. So we just gave it to him for free. And then he really like worked and like made connections with artists as a printer that year. And he told us like years last year actually, he's like, you guys basically made our business what we are. And I was like, aw, I don't take credit for your hard work, but thank you. We did our best to prepare as best as we could for our very first convention. But it was still kind of a hot mess when we got there the day of.
I remember it being really hot. And then, I don't know, we didn't know how these things work. I think we got like cupcakes. You're like, oh yeah, we'll have like cupcakes out and we'll give them to people and hopefully, I don't know, be nice. I don't know. We don't know how to do this. The most I've ever known how to do was present myself during something like a grad night, which was, you know, what I was expecting. Like, it's kind of like grad night, but for a whole weekend, and I get to sit, which is pretty cool. That's what I thought it was going to be, but we rolled up. It was really hot, despite it being November, and we go into the tent, and temperature just still doesn't change much. And
it gets hotter.
Yeah.
And remember, it was a tent with clear tops.
Yeah.
Which you think is nice because then you get skylight, but it's actually the hot 100-degree California sun burning down on you.
It's like the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
And you're the ant. I remember one of my friends was sitting there as it was moving towards him. No. And it was hot to be under there.
You're basically being cooked alive.
Yeah. So I remember it was rough, but you know, we had a job to do.
Yeah, so we come in early in the morning and we're sleep deprived because we spent all night printing out zines, and oh god, we were so tired. And then when we get there, again, you don't think about all the little tiny details that come up until it happens when you're doing this for the first time. We were totally unprepared. I realized, sure, I have the I was like, sure, I have this great banner that I designed, got it printed, I got everything ready. How do I put it up? I have no string, no clips, no nothing to put it up. I was like, God damn it. How do you miss something like that? And then we lay out all our stuff. Our portfolios is fine. It's in a portfolio book, so it lays flat on the table. Then we have a prints, and then we realize, wait, we don't have anything to prop it up because it looks weird when it's like all laid out on the table like that. Like, who's gonna bend over and look at it? But you don't think about those things until like you gotta do it. So one of the biggest tips that we learned from that experience:
prepare a month in advance.
and practice setting up.
That's right. That too. We're really fast at setting up and tearing down.
Now,
Yeah.
And our display is like crazy now.
So we just want to get in and out
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
And we're like a well-oiled machine. But that first time, we were stumbling everywhere. We had none of the things. None of the things. And you know what sucked too? I remember that first year I went to see Tian, I would ask people, where did you get this made? Like, this is a really great quality zine. Or I remember asking some people before tabling and like, oh, I need to get art prints. Do you have any recommendations? And people always keep their information to themselves. They like lie to you, or they just tell you I don't know. Which
in other conventions, in like comic book conventions and anime conventions, they're a lot nicer about that. But we've observed, I'll pull a tactic from the Hollywood people in our 6 years of experience, that Hollywood and these kind of conference conventions are the worst when it comes to sharing helpful information, because they're so, I don't know, uptight about the whole competitive nature of Hollywood.
Yeah, like who gives a shit if you use my printer?
So my philosophy on this is like, we are so free to give you guys like any sort of resource, because like we know it's what you do with the resource that matters.
Yeah. Like, I'm not scared.
Like, I'm not scared to give you, like, what? We are using a Zoom Live Track L8. Mm-hmm. You know, if you want to do what we're doing, get that thing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't guarantee you're going to be a very, you know, I don't know, you're going to be really good at podcasting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So we're, to be all grubby with your information like that, it's like, what, do you not have enough confidence that you can't, you know, you have to screw over people like that?
Yeah. I remember when you are a beginner at this, you have no idea where to get any of your displays, because convention displays in particular are kind of a niche. And think about it. My first instinct was like, I don't know what store sells things that prop paper up. Office supply stores. So I went to Office Depot, Staples, everywhere, and they didn't have anything, because I was like, oh, presentation, what is it called? A presentation stand? I don't know. And then we didn't want to go to like an art supply store and buy like professional easels, because those costed a lot. And I was like, where's everyone getting their displays? So I would ask, and they'd be like, oh, they'll lie to me. And then the reason why I discovered where we get our displays, where everyone get their displays, honestly, is because someone forgot to take the sticker off. And I was like, ha! I know where to get this now.
So to everybody in the world, what is the place? Where is the place that you get displays that all these animation people are like trying so hard not to let you guys know?
Clear Displays.
Yeah, go to Clear Displays.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go to Clear Displays. They have amazing displays.
Yeah. And they
we're not sponsored by them.
I wish we were. They are you can take them apart too, like a puzzle piece, because you don't want to be carrying a shelf everywhere and building it every single time. It's like a wood puzzle piece.
You heard it from Honey and Absinthe.
Yeah. So people are really stingy about the information. Like, it's like they want you to fail.
Yeah, of course they do. It's American Idol. The guy wasn't wrong.
Yeah, he wasn't.
It's American Idol.
Yeah, and so because we had not practiced setting up beforehand, it took really long. As you can imagine, we're just like scrambling, asking people for clips and driving back and forth, trying to get string maybe to hang it. And we had these giant canvas prints, I guess, that we were trying to figure out how to hang on the railing without having it sag or get into other people's space. And it was just a nightmare. We didn't know what we were doing. So that was the first day. And we sat down, and the event started. It's so exciting. We're like sleep deprived. We think we have a little bit of like adrenaline going because we're like sweaty, and we're like, yeah, let's do this thing. Let's get hired. Let's make these connections, whatever. And then like no one shows up. We're sitting there like sweating because there was no air conditioning that year. And we're like,
They brought in fans, but not until later, I think.
yeah. And they didn't cover the skylight thing that was cooking us until later as well. So we're sitting under the hot sun. It's like a sauna in there. Everyone's miserable. We're like looking at each other because we're a lot of our friends were also tabling. So we look around, we're like looking at each other, like being like, man, it looks like we made an awful decision. We all made an awful decision. And eventually some stragglers come in, but they quickly leave because, again, it's like a sauna in there. And also, like, seeing how many people ignored us, all of us, down in the new talent tent, made me realize, oh, so no one cares about me. No one cares at all what I do, what my art is. Like, most of the people here are students, so why would they care about my portfolio?
80%, 85% of them are students.
Yeah.
And then there's teachers too who come.
Yeah. And they're not hiring either.
Yeah.
And I remember throughout the event, by the second day, they brought fans, like these giant fans, but then it would blow everyone's work away because everyone also didn't know where to get these displays, so everyone's work was just laying on the top of the table. And then they were like, yeah, so we're gonna like make sure you guys don't faint by bringing in these fans. Let's turn it on. Artwork goes flying and everyone's like, ah. And then like at overnight too, it wouldn't help because California nights are kind of windy, especially in November. So I remember coming back early in the morning.
Right. Everything was just all over the place.
Yeah. No one knew to like weigh their work down because why would you? You're in a tent. It was like stagnant air during the day. So when we left, we were like, oh, everything's fine. We come back, literally everyone, the entire tent's work it looked like a tornado went through there, and I had to like pick up our work. Like, and then throughout the day, because the fans were going, every once in a while you'll see someone running down the hall chasing after their art.
Right. Yeah, I remember this too.
Oh, it was a train wreck. And then since no one was really coming into that tent, because again, no one cares about new talent. Okay. When you think about going to CTN, do you think like, oh, I'm going to look at my peers' work. I'm going to see who's the next up and coming artist. No, that's not why I went, especially. Like, I wanted to go see famous people who worked in the industry. That's who I wanted to see. So us being new talent, we were buying these discounted tables for a reason. Like, they're discounted for a reason because they know that no one cares about us. We're just, I don't know, an extra $400 in the parking lot. So we were all miserable, and we actually sat next to a few of our friends, and I remember it was so boring, and we were cooking in there and sweating, and we were just trying to like entertain ourselves. So I would talk to her the whole time, and like every time I would see like her get someone interested in her work, and it was very like at the time like children's book illustrations. So I was like, oh, did you get something? Like, oh, did something happen? And then she was like, no, it just looked like it, but it was nothing. And then like the same thing would happen if someone would like come talk to me, and then I'd sit back down like hot, and she's like, oh, did something happen? I'm like, no. No, they're just looking. Oh man. And then for me, I also realized like I'm not gonna get any connections out of this Especially I had this CTN has this application process where you can submit your portfolio and they'll show it to industry people, and then they have the option of picking you to interview, potentially to get to know you, maybe get hired or whatever. So I applied to that, and I remember being a little bit like disheartened that I wasn't chosen for anything. But I was like, oh well, I have a table there. I can like get some portfolio reviews from like the studios or whatever, but like, I'll just it's still a good thing that I'm going, because at least I'm making myself known. So while we were standing there, this guy comes along and he seems really interested in my portfolio. And he like starts like really flipping through, and this is like the only person who bothered to stop at our table for longer than like a few seconds, or like coming in and going straight out. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. This guy's like really into my portfolio. And he goes like, I picked you for an interview. And then I was like, what? He's like, yeah, like the other day, like you missed it. And I was like, I never done, like I was like furious at that point.
In front of him?
No, inside. I was like boiling, because I was like, first of all, I was embarrassed because that's not a good look.
Yeah, it looks unprofessional.
And then second, I was like, I had a chance to get hired,
right,
and I missed it.
Right.
What? And then I was like, I never got an email. And then he sighed, and then he muttered under his breath, these goddamn people don't know what the fuck they're doing.
And what was it for?
Oh, so this was a director on, I think, Family Guy. And he saw my work through the site and was like, oh, I want to talk to her, I guess, because they were hiring at the time, I think, for like a revisionist position or something. And he was like, yeah, I saw your work before. And is this one new? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, your work's improving. And he's like, I wanted to talk to you because I thought your work is good. And he handed me like his business card.
Oh, good.
And then,
why didn't you take it?
well, first of all, my work is not suited for Family Guy at all. I kind of knew that I would be miserable. So I didn't want to work for Family Guy. But also, like, I think it fell through, honestly. Like, I've almost gotten hired so many times before I finally got hired. That just happens all the time. But yeah, I was like, oh man. I was so paranoid the rest of the convention that I would have, like, how many interviews have I missed? Because, I don't know, their systems weren't working, or like they just had bad communication or whatever. I was just really annoyed, and it seemed like he was too, because he didn't blame me. He clearly was like, God, these goddamn people. I after that moment in the convention, I was like, oh, I'm not getting any connections from this. I just wasted my $433. Yeah. Did you have any like close calls with hiring, or did you know? Oh yeah, your person who introduced you told you knowing it's hired here. So what were you thinking the whole time?
I was trying to I remember I did get some portfolio reviews, but I don't think I got anything, I think, that year. And then, I got into theme park design, basically. So I didn't really get anything that year other than just the experience of what CTN was like on the other side.
I see. Yeah. And now that like we've been working in the industry for a while, I realized very early on that why no one is actually hiring at CTN. This was like the studios will ask people who work in the studio to volunteer to do portfolio reviews. And these people range from like directors, maybe if they have time, most likely not, to like board artists, and then like art directors and even revisionists, I remember.
Yeah, in our third CTN, you were already in DreamWorks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then were you, or did somebody you know do the portfolio reviews?
I think someone I knew.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, but it was a volunteer thing. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, want to represent our studio, do some volunteer work, um, and do portfolio reviews for people. And so like people, they're just there to like be there to volunteer, or sometimes they're just picked to like, hey, you're gonna represent the studio, you gotta do this thing. And I was like, oh, that's why it seemed like no one cared when they looked at my portfolio, because no one cared when they looked at my portfolio. Yeah, so like by the end of it, I remember like asking all our buddies, all our friends from school who are tabling with us, like, oh, how'd you do? And the sentiment was like, oh, we all ate shit.
Yeah.
We didn't get anything out of it.
Like $400. You probably don't even have $400 worth of stuff to sell, especially for, we weren't the only ones who were like, you know, straight out of school, didn't really know how to work a convention, did our best to figure it out, but then, you know, severe disadvantage. The stuff that we had, I mean, come on.
Like no one got hired, obviously, and no one made money. And everyone was just really sad that they spent $400 on this miserable experience. And where no one cares about you, which in a way is kind of good to learn early then, because like that doesn't change at a normal convention. But when you realize that, it's like, oh, okay, I really need to figure out how to get someone's attention.
Right. And remember, these people, what do they get? They get bonuses, commissions?
Who?
The people who are hiring.
Oh yeah, recruiters get bonuses.
Right. So you know, you gotta be worth the bonus.
Yeah.
You gotta be worth the pick.
And when you're
you're somebody's bonus, you gotta make this. You gotta make them look good. You know.
Oh, so everyone did bad, but at the same time, everyone also like begrudgingly felt like they had to be there every year. Like, everyone knows that we lose money. Everyone knows that it's kind of a miserable, exhausting experience. But, you know, I'm still gonna, like, we'd ask, are you gonna come back next year? You get, like, a grandfathered into, like, the discount if you keep your table or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, it's so expensive. And, like, I'm tired. I lost a lot of money. But, okay, I'll do it for next year. And you go, why? Any sane person who does conventions will be like, why? Why are you putting yourself through this? It's like this CTN and these industry conventions really make it seem like you have to be there. Like, have to. Not like...
They're really good at generating FOMO.
Yeah.
Really good. They always have like pictures together right before they have lunches or dinners, and then they post and tag each other, and then they, you know, really schmooze over each other over social media, especially on Twitter. Oh, I love your show. Oh, I love this. I love that. And then they go, oh, I love this. I love that. I love this. I love that. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it really, from an outsider's point of view, you're like, oh, wow, these people really must like each other. This seems pretty crazy, this animation crowd thing. Like,
this is the place to be if you want to get hired. I think most people look internally. At least I did. And I was like, oh, maybe my work just isn't good enough. I just need to keep coming back, showing up every single year, getting...
Yeah, you're bound to get in.
Yeah.
You know?
I just got to work at it.
I just got to work at it and pay $450.
Yeah.
It'd be 50 plus every year.
Yeah. And if you don't get hired, if no one notices you, that's your fault. That's what I thought. And like, what's worse?
And that's what probably other people who get picked think about people who don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also thought like, even like I'm trying to get hired, and this is where they're telling me all the people who are hiring are at. So I have to be there every year, because if I'm not there, I have less chance to get hired, because I'm never like making myself known. So everyone in our school begrudgingly comes back year after year. Even after a lot of us got hired, we just came back year after year for some reason. Just torturing ourselves.
Well, for us, I feel like I think by the second or third one we vowed, as soon as we both got hired in animation, we would never go to that convention ever again. And we both got hired officially around 2017, and we never looked back. It was great.
Yeah.
Feels good. Because, CTN happens, I think, usually a week before Thanksgiving. And, depending on your CTN, you can have you've had some shit CTNs. I've had some shit CTNs. It's not fun
Yeah.
a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's especially when it became all in the tent outside all together because it got too big or whatever. I don't even know. Facing the elements was not fun because that year was hot, but there were other years that were cold
Stormy.
and stormy. Yes, in a tent. So by the end of it, I was pretty demoralized. I was exhausted. I felt like I had put all this work into something that didn't give me anything in return. It made me feel really bad, and I also felt like there was nothing I could have done. Like I kept like getting upset at myself for not showing up to that interview and wondering how many interviews did I miss, and I just was like, oh God, like what? Why did I put myself through this? And I remember telling you, I was like, I don't think I like doing conventions. I don't think I want to do this again. This is kind of exhausting and hard. and we didn't make any money. At the very least, like I felt like we wasted a lot of our money doing this thing. Like if I had gotten like connections or something, I would have been at least like, well, it was kind of worth it because I got to network and do this or do that. But I really felt like, man, I just felt completely ripped off, for lack of a better word. How did you feel after the convention?
Just, I don't know, happy it was over, I think. And then you said something like you didn't want to do conventions, period, ever. And then I had to convince, like, no. It wasn't like that at Anime Expo. Anime Expo was different. I was making connections with people. I was, just getting all this attention and people really, like, thinking my work was really neat and stuff. And I made a little bit of money for the first time at a convention. So that, in contrast with my experience at CTN, I had to convince, like, no, for some strange, this convention is just weird. It's just all wrong, but we have to keep trying because, I just think I just kept trying to convince you it's a really good thing for us to do.
Yeah, and I remember it kept going like, are you sure? Like, other conventions aren't like this? So you mean to tell me, like, you made money at Anime Expo?
I did.
And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it a few more times.
It didn't take until 2 more conventions, actually, until you were, like, hooked.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is such a cool experience. Because I did acknowledge that, like, it was an interesting, like, challenge to figure out, like, who our printers are, how to get these displays, how to, like, do this better next time. Like, we failed so hard that I just
wanted to know what it would look like if we tried a little bit harder.
Yeah, we improved upon all these things that we realized.
Yeah, our next one was Anime California, I think.
Yeah, and we were better.
We were a lot better.
Yeah.
Still didn't make money.
Yeah.
but we were a lot better presentation-wise.
Yeah, we learned, like, I want in every single one of these episodes, because I want to go through, like, every single con we've ever done.
Sure.
I want to, like say, like, what is the, like, number one thing we learned, or what did we learn here that we didn't know previously? And there's something like that every single time.
Yeah, for me, for this one, it's like to know the con, know the convention, read it properly.
Yeah.
And like you said about schools in one episode, the convention is a business. Like, they're trying to make money. Yeah. And you have to be aware of how they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know, you reading that thing from the email about how, like, it's not a traditional convention. Like,
yeah.
What? And man, if I only just read that before, that would have changed so much stuff. I was like, I would have been like, oh, so you're admitting it then?
So
You're making it crystal clear you're not gonna make money, but on a gamble, you might get a job.
Yeah,
Might.
you're so much better at reading between the lines and reading people than I am. I really think if you had read that, because I was in charge of all the table emails and like the exchanges back and forth. I always am like in a way, like the bookkeeper and the like secretary of like when we do conventions, because I'm the weirdo that organizes my emails properly and deletes spam, and I make sure my email is pristine.
I don't delete emails.
Yeah.
It's more fun that way.
Your inbox stresses me out. I break out in sweats when I see it. But like, since I was the one who got the email, I take everything literally. So I read that very literally. I was like, oh, okay. So if you say so, now I read that and I'm like, that's a lot of pretty words that mean not what you think it means. For me, I think learning how to make things, how to figure out how to make things, and then how to present it was really important for me, because eventually we figured out where to get displays and which displays we need and which ones are the best ones and how to present our work, because you don't know that things are no good lying flat until you see it.
Right.
And you go, oh, that looks awful. How do I fix this right now? Or you don't know how to hang a banner, or if you even need a banner, until you do it. Or you don't know just simple things like how to get something printed, where to do it, who to do it with, and how to find a trustworthy printer, all these things, until you have to do it. And it's not even like discovering like your favorite printer is the most important part. It's the act of doing it. It's like going out and doing research and like talking to people and making these relationships.
Yeah, just in the act of printing alone, you'll discover, oh, maybe that print that I made, I didn't like the paper. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try this paper. Oh, it's nice and glossy and it really does look great, but it's a little expensive. I wonder if there's like a quality this good, but maybe a little bit cheaper. Yeah. And you go through that trial and error, and you're not going to know all of that the first time.
Yeah, you're not.
This is why you recommend to people all the time to do conventions.
Yeah, because like your first few times, I always say, unless you're like a freak of nature, is probably going to be failures, because you're learning all these things for the first time. But that's like if you find the bug, I think like that doesn't matter, because we've had loads of failures. But
it's made us want to work even harder.
Yeah, to improve and to crack that code and figure it out.
Yeah, when I remember it was one of the Vegas conventions, we ate shit on a day, and it was a 4-day, so it was the second one. The second day I was like, oh my gosh, second day, we only have 2 days left. We got to do something about it. And I remember we hustled to get like lights and proper proper easels. Biscuit! What was I talking about?
Vegas Con, it was like second to last day we were getting lights.
We got lights, we got easels, we got more paper, more convention paper. I think we ran out too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like that's our MO. When we don't do good, we try to think of whatever we can to do a little bit better next time.
Yeah. Especially in those early days, we tried a lot of different things.
A lot of things we don't do anymore. No. But it was worth the try.
Yeah. It's good to know too. Try it for yourself. And that process, I think we do it less these days because we figured a lot of that stuff out.
We figured out our preference for it.
But that is either really fun or like way too stressful. And that's how you know if this is for you, I guess.
It's a journey of self-improvement, like the improvement of your space and the work that you have and how you present it to people.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're first starting out, you don't know your way of doing it. There's lots of people who like to put all their stuff in really neat displays, and there are people sort of like us who like to put all of their work behind them. And there's no right or wrong way, but you got to find your way, and that's going to take a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. But I really, there's something just like weird about me where I really enjoyed that extreme challenge of like, oh man, and it's also kind of like sink or swim, do or die, like where when the show starts, until the show ends, it's sink or swim. You gotta figure it out, figure the show out, figure all the things, all the tiny little fires that you have to put out constantly. Chase after your print that went flying. That adrenaline that you get,
It's exhilarating.
it is.
Yeah.
It kind of is. And I as exhausted as I was like, okay, I can see how if we at least made money and I didn't feel exhausted from talking because it's a talkie con.
So this is also different from other conventions. And this is what makes me sad. I think a lot of people, especially in the industry, do CTN and they think that's basically like every other convention. It's not. Every other convention, you're allowed to just sit and relax, say hello to people, but you're not, you don't have to stand up and shake everybody's hand and ask, where do you work and all this stuff. At CTN, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of like, when you see somebody who is coming and they have like a DreamWorks sweater or a Mickey Mouse whatever go by, you stand up and you're like, hopefully they notice me or something. And when they do, it's a whole conversation.
They're like, tell me about your work, and you have this whole spiel of like your fantastic Picasso idea, whatever it was.
And then there's this guy who I think the following year, our second year, CTN 2015. He lost his voice by the end of the he lost his voice by the end of the day, and it's that kind of convention. But it really is CTN is the only convention where we talk for most of it, don't draw for any of it, and hardly make money.
Yeah. At least, like, at first, that's how we approached it. And then we approached it like a normal con later on.
Later on, the reason why I feel like we started making money was like when we do CTN, right, I mentioned before, I was like really worried, like, oh, I don't want to have my anime art or whatever. By the third year, I think I was at Starburns. I was already no, not yet, right? No,
not yet.
Not yet.
I was at DreamWorks and you were looking.
I was looking, but I just left theme park design. But at that year, we were like, fuck it, let's just put our convention stuff up, because but at that time we've been conventioning for 3 years and we've probably done at least like 25 conventions by like a lot by then a lot. So we were like, we're not going to change up anything. We're just going to take what we usually bring at like Long Beach Comic Con or Sabicon or Level Up. We're just going to bring it here. And we did gangbusters that year. Because we were the only ones who sold like convention-y, fan-arty type stuff at CTN.
There were like, I think our last few years there, we made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I have a very quiet voice and I don't enjoy talking for long periods of time. I have a weak voice, I guess. Even when I like record YouTube videos, by the end of, 4 hours, my voice is gone. So imagine like 3 days, 8 hours every day, trying to shake people's hands and talk about my grand, storyboard portfolio and asking, oh, what's it like working at whatever? Do you have any positions? I'm looking. Just like, talking to your friends, like, oh man, I did so bad today, and then like being really upset. Every year after CTN, my voice is just gone. It feels like I had gotten sick and I needed the entire week to clear up like a sore throat or something. It's exhausting too because you're standing a lot.
I'm wiped the whole week.
Yeah,
from talking and standing, and we've had conventions where we were drawing the whole time, and there's just something about conversing with people every single, almost, there were certain CTNs, I think we got a lot of attention, so we were talking a lot more, and I was just super exhausted from those conversations, man.
It's CTN's a hard first con.
Yeah.
It was like I think out of all the conventions we had ever done, even in our most successful year, I think CTN was still the hardest convention.
Yeah, I feel like if you are maybe social media art famous, and for some reason that's not enough for you and you want to work in the animation industry, I guess you do a good time because people know you and your work is hopefully really good and maybe you'll get in. But like for everybody else, it's if you're not, if you're not already, if you don't have a fan base already, no one's going to have any attention.
At least at a convention like that for some reason, yeah.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about CTN.
Yeah, because that's not the case in any other convention.
In any other convention, if you have neat looking work and if you put your best foot forward, you can actually make some money.
Yeah, because people are
Anyone
interested
can.
in art. They're not interested in...
And your take on their favorite character.
Yeah, or whatever. Even if it's like original art. They're there to be exposed to art and entertainment and all this stuff, whereas CTN is a different beast. People go there to meet their favorite famous artists, quote unquote famous, and they go to get hired.
Yeah,
so,
I remember, I'm not sure I'm sure it was the very first one, where a big industry person I got to talk to, and he said something like, "Oh, isn't it great that I know you don't really like make a lot of money at this convention, but at least you make these connections, and that's worth a lot." And then maybe at the time I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds very wise." But like now that I'm older and now that I'm like on the other side, I'm just like, what a load of baloney. What kind of crap is that? $400 more probably right before like all of this stuff that's happening right now is happening. And to say that like you get these networking things that are super valuable, it's like maybe if you're lucky, kind of bump shoulders with somebody that can maybe get you to somebody who could maybe get you hired, maybe.
But I mean, in previous episodes, you know exactly how real these connections are, how valuable they are, I guess.
If you like this episode and you want more, we've done so many conventions. We've done Anime Expo, Creative Talent Network, Lightbox Expo, WonderCon, Sabacon, Level Up Expo, so many conventions. LA Comic Con, or formerly Kamikaze, or formerly Stanley's Comic Con.
Yeah, whatever it is called now.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of conventions, mostly in the West Coast, though. Mm-hmm. And if you have any if you're curious about, certain years, or if you think you were in the same year at CTN as us, let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about like how we eventually crack the code of CTN.
Yeah.
And when we get there, because I want to go through each and every convention that we've done and show you, really recount all the crazy stories that has happened. And side note,
what?
I have a random rant.
Wait, what is this?
A side note. Oh.
Say it again.
Side note. Anyways, we got this thing in the mail. This is a Keyframe magazine, and this is the magazine that is paid for by your guild dues.
Oh, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. I remember, so I don't think we always got this, but this is the Animation Guild magazine that I think is actually a recent addition to all the random expenses that the guild has. And yes, your dues, the dues that if you guys ever get into animation, you have to pay every single quarter that, to be in animation.
But these pile up in our...
Yeah. So every time, we used to get 2 copies of this when I was still working. So we got extra trash.
Oh my God.
And I was kind of like, man, I saw this out of the corner of my eye and I was like, God damn it. If you can't tell, I'm Asian and I hate wasting money. And I was like, especially when I was paying for this with my guild dues, apparently, I was like, what? No one asked for this. This goes in the trash every single time I see. I don't even read this. Why would I? I already work in animation at the time. I was like, why am I getting junk mail from the guild? And why am I paying for it? I never... Who said this was a good idea? And honestly, I have a hard time these days reading anything like this or even seeing it out of the corner of my eye, because even like reading the table of contents makes me roll my eyes really, really hard, because it just feels like everyone a circle of jerks, let's say. Since I can't really say it, just rearrange the words. It feels like a circle of jerks, just kind of like congratulating each other. And we actually wanted to do an episode of the Animation Guild and how inefficient I think they are and how I think they waste their money that we pay them when you work in animation every single quarter on a lot of strange things. I always go like, I fucking paid for this. I always go like, I paid for this. Why? Who okayed this? I never agreed to this, but okay. But we were kind of like, this seems like a really niche topic that I don't know if anyone cares about. So we just never did that episode. But let us know if you want me to rant about how...
If you want to get into a lot of trouble.
I guess.
Well, anyway, see you in the next episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you can find us. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Make sure to smash the like button.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.